Hello friends, welcome. Yeah, come here. No, you got to do it over here. Good one. Alright, let's paint some galls.
Balls?
Yes, balls, that's what I said, Mossy. We're going to paint some balls. Now I'm going to paint this guy. I just called to say I love you. Let's do a two-toned. Hello at Santium. Let's do a two-toned approach with our airbrushing as our start. And then we'll see what we get from there. Kiwi brown or golden brown? I think we'll go golden brown. Golden brown, texture like sun. Yeah. Later on, with my mind she runs throughout the night. No need to fight, never a frown with golden brown. Hey Alexa, airbrush on. Do the golden brown first. I use STLs for some of my big projects, so I have shopped around, but I just get other people to print them. There's a lot of STLs out there, and there's a lot of crap ones. So I look forward to looking at that as soon as I finish this little bit. That is fantastic. That is a great model. So yeah, there's so many great 3D figures out there, and that would be the thing that would get me into trouble. I think I would just be on there every day going, oh yeah, I could paint that. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And then before you know it, I've spent $500 and I've got 100 models and I paint one of them. That's just not a good ROI, you know? Hello, Match Fixer. Well, look, mate, you don't have to do that. But if you do, I appreciate it. Hey, Sammy. Well, I appreciate the support of my content. But I don't do it for financial gain. If I did, there would be lots of things that I could do to make it more financially lucrative. I do not. I paint because I like it, and I stream because it gives me a good opportunity to talk to people and answer questions, help the community. I think I'm going to switch to a little bit of a Caucasian skin tone. I wasn't planning on airbrushing skin tone. No, I'll stick with my original plan. Alexa, airbrush off. I'll stick with my original plan. I won't do that. Alright. I was just doing some very, very, very fine airbrushing detail, and I thought, maybe I should do a little bit more of that. But very hard to replicate. So congratulations to Jared, Alexi, and the other Australians that may have gone over to World Model Expo. Pick themselves up a couple of medals. It's a Very different world. International painting events versus the little Australian ones. Hello, no. So yes, let's talk about this little guy. This is a little Gaulish chieftain or something. And I always just like to paint a historical model or two every year. And just really think about the discipline of painting without saturated colours. Sometimes I succeed at that, and other times I don't. But the world of historical painting is just very different to the one that I normally live in. I think it's a good exercise to push yourself out into this world. And I'll tell you a funny story. It's actually not that funny. But the historical model I took over to Scale Model Challenge and Monty is actually the thing that has won me my most successful international medal, which is a silver medal in the Masters category for historical. I took over a Boudica model, and yeah, that Boudica won me silver, whereas all of the stuff I painted for fantasy won me bronzes. So I picked this figure up from Juddo and Spec Mod Models, which is an Australian distributor of display figures. I saw a really good one. I don't think I shared it on my page actually. I probably should have. I used to share cool model albums when I saw them. Forgot about it this time. By all accounts, the quality of figures on display was exceptional, which is of course course not surprising for the event that's only held every 3 years. So we're going to move straight to Sunny's skin tone and really work our way through if we can find it. May already be too steep a value change, don't know. I'll zoom in a bit, friends, so you can sort of see the gloriousness of this figure. Hello, Ellie. What are you doing in here? Getting away from the vacuum cleaner. Smart girl. This guy's got muscles on muscles. That's what I look like when I take my shirt off. That's not accurate. Played some good games this week. We finally got back into Ticket to Ride Legacy. I did, yes. Yes, that is because of the angle of his arm. I figured we'd have a little bit of reflection coming off the ground there. So, and don't forget, when I airbrush, that is gonna get tweaked down. So, but also remember that very, very little of this is actually happening up here. I'm not even thinking. I'm just talking, and I'm sort of, the brush is kind of like deciding things for itself. yeah. We very often get um, trapped, I think, by what we think has to happen. Light area, dark area. Oops, that was a good one, didn't I? And I think you can just try things and see what happens. Very rarely does it come out worse. I saw a great post actually on Instagram a couple of days ago, and it was a two-dimensional artist, and he showed something I talk about often, which is values versus saturation. And he had a black and white photo as his first picture in his image, and it was this beautifully rendered, portrait figure. And then scroll across to the coloured version, and it was amazing. It was like just this splash of colour, all of these interesting colours, and I think, the moral of his post was that the hue doesn't matter, it's the values that matter in making a picture readable, legible. I think that's a very good lesson for us as miniature painters. If we worry less about the colour and more about the value, we're probably going to have a pretty good outcome. Anyway, back to my board games experience this week. I played a little board game called Legacy of You, which is a little solo only game, which was great. I played Ticket to Ride, played a few more games of Escape the Dark Castle with Mossy and friends. And I've set up to start playing some games of Expeditions, sequel to Scythe. On the table behind me. Should we go true metallic metal or non-metallic metal in this piece, do you reckon? Haven't done true metallics for a while. But there's not a lot of metal. And when there's not a lot of metal, I reckon that's when NMM works at its best. Certainly the type of NMM that I do, anyway. Butter yellow. Share some photos. I can't even comprehend how that would look. If you feel like it, of course. Don't have to. Yeah, it sounds crazy. Yeah, still tossing up. Alright, so I want to use a colour that I really like but I don't use often enough. It's called Orcish Dermis. So this is it. It's a really nice pinkish skin tone colour. It works really nice as a glaze. So I'm going to try some of that. Alexa, airbrush on. Thank you. So I'm going to try and remember to do this more often, but that's kind of the level of colour intensity that I'm going for. So let's So it's a slightly transparent colour because it's from the Scale Fantasy range. So often you do a coat and it doesn't look like it's actually done much. But it does tweak colours nicely. just add a little touch of this. Cool, man. No, I've decided I'm going to do non-metallic metals. It's a weakness. I just love it. I just love doing it. Alexa, airbrush off. You know, I just love pottering around with those reflections and what have you. And the colour that we're going to go for is going to be a coppery colour. And yeah, that'll be fun. Okay. So I'm going to start by plopping down one of my favourite articles that I've ever read about this hobby was one by Sebastian Archer, and it was on making non-metallic metal, painting it. And he was just glaze after glaze after glaze, and it really changed the way I thought about figure painting at that time. Unfortunately, I was never really very good at it, especially back then. There's some neck there, Deno. What have you done? Yeah, I definitely do true metallics a lot more on gaming pieces. Just because it really looks good on the table, and it's generally a fair bit quicker. So, yes, is the answer to that. You can combine the two pretty easily. You're welcome. Thanks, Sammy. Enjoy your walk with your dog. My dog is looking at me very upset right now. She wants to go somewhere else. But you can't, you're stuck here with me. Alrighty. So, what I might do, might tweak these guys a bit. Let's add some grey tones to the palette. So we want to add the grey tones so that we can mix that in with the skin. And that will create a very dead looking colour. Oh. If anyone would like to do some research for me and tell me what colour clothes this guy should be wearing, that would be glorious. Is it red and green? Is that what we should be doing? Yeah. Do you want to bring me a glass of water?
Do I want to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Spoiler, Mossy did not want to bring me a glass of water. Thanks. Okay, turn that off. 3D print this one. I'm pretty sure. When I bought it. The details are really crisp. Really crisp for a figure of this size. G'day X-Tab. Well, as I said earlier, mate, I am actually really this chiseled in real life, so I'm sure many people are. But no, it's a legitimate question that, of course, no one was looked like this when they were in ancient Gaul. Maybe they were actually, because they didn't have enough food, so they were down to skin and bones. But then if they were down to skin and bones, they're unlikely to be this muscular. Yeah, Camerad's £10, mate. You know what they say. Mossy gave me a real confidence boost before. She said, we were looking at some old photos so we can get photos printed for the wall. She goes, geez, you gotten fat? Thanks, Mossy. Confidence boost. Me? Yep. Never enough. Never enough. Yep, miniature painting is not a hobby that's great for getting shredded. All the shine of 1,000 spotlights, all the stars we steal from the night sky will never be enough. Never be enough. Towers of gold are still too little. These hands could hold the world, but it'll never be enough. Never be enough for me. Never, never, never. Alright, let's go to light orange. This is my favourite orange colour. Hey, Top. Good to see you, my friend. I feel like other oranges have this very transparent quality. As soon as I add light orange to the mix, we get a much stronger paint. The downside to the light orange, though, is that it is not as saturated, so we have to go back in and re-add saturation with a glaze. That's okay. What's been happening, Top? You paint any cool models recently, mate? Ooh, Perion. Nice model. Did I paint her in my diorama? I don't know if she was out at the time. Maybe I didn't. Hmm. Okay. I love Nico sculpts. Cyberpunk sort of style. It's a good question, really. Limbo Miniatures have a range called Limbo Division, I think, which is cyberpunk. And Mindworks just released a range from Kiki Paints, which is quite cyberpunky. Yeah. But yeah, it's probably sort of untapped design space, maybe. Yeah, there's kind of a few out there, but Nico's the market leader for sure. I have not read that book, but I am about to start rereading the Dresden Files. I haven't read Neuromancer, isn't there? Are they making an Apple TV show about that? It's full cyberpunk, isn't it? Cool. Yeah, I watched the first 20 minutes of Foundation the other week and thought, yep, that's going to be good. I'm going to watch that. But then I haven't gotten around to actually watching it. Yeah, could you imagine not airbrushing? I can't. Cragzog challenged me the other day to paint a figure without airbrushing, and I just thought, you know what, Cragzog? I didn't even like you to begin with, mate. And you've just reinforced that. Hey, Gary. Alright. Indeed, it is a new piece. We're painting this one for QMHE, which comes in about 4 weeks away now. So, always like to paint a little historical component for the event. And every year I say I'm going to do a tank or a vehicle, and I never do. But this year, when I'm there, I'm going to buy one to force myself. I've heard really good things about Murderbot. Pretty much everyone that I've spoken to about it's said it's great. Well, if you highly recommend it, it is a winner. If you're a discerning connoisseur of all the finer things in life. Mossie's going to town on the cleaning this morning because we've got people coming over. So she's just going mental. 600 vacuuming sessions. Here's me just painting my toys. Yeah, good deal. Good deal. Alright, let's see. Doesn't really quite read as metal yet. So we'll go to the Grand Maestro of non-metallic metal, which is ice yellow. Give that a little poke because it always dries in the tip. Brutal burrito, that is absolutely a true statement. So what are we at now? We're at 1 hour for this. Yeah, if you went back through my back catalogue on YouTube, I reckon you could probably even find that. Probably find several instances of it. Yeah, it's pretty much my claim to fame. I'm very quick. But I'm not as good as the great Eric Swinson. He is an absolute animal. Pretty sure I called on this this very show that Eric Swinson is one of the greatest painters that we have. And I've been proved correct multiple times over the last few years, as he's won just about everything there is to win. One of the things that I really am proud of myself for is I'm very similar. I get a lot bored very quickly, and so being able to finish a diorama is it's testament to the value of persistence, because I get bored with painting a model after 4 or 5 hours as well. I think bored's probably the wrong term, right? It's not boring, it's just like, I do this to be creatively engaged. I do this to create something. And when you reach that point in a figure where, you know, it's no longer creating. You're not creating anything. You're pushing through to get to the end. You know, you're in the grunt work stage. That's the part that I lose enthusiasm. So. Is that a question directed at me on this particular piece, or is that a question directed at me in general? Or is it a question directed for someone else? If it was directed at me in regards to this piece, I always try to remember that stuff, when you airbrush it, loses texture, loses interest and value for that matter. So I'm always looking for ways that I can ensure that I retain those things. Where possible. What are some tips? What are some tips I can share? Perfect is the enemy of good. Is it just a good thing to keep in mind? I think sometimes we get a little too fixated on something being perfect. Here's a good tip. Always do this. Look at the model outside of the light. And if it reads well, you know you're on the right track. If it doesn't read well, back to the drawing board. And that's actually one that I did a 2-day private coaching with Raphael Pica from Massive Voodoo. He doesn't really paint anymore, but amazing painter. And the approach that we took to painting a model was what he described to me was like basically what they used to do with oil painting back in the day, which is they would kind of like block out. Okay, cool. This triangle sort of section here is my highlight, and so you would basically block in everything in terms of values, just very blocky, and then you'd hold it away and you sort of squint, and if it looked like, because everything sort of blurred together, if it looked right, then you knew you were right, and then if it didn't look right, you could make adjustments and you hadn't spent 10 hours blending or whatever. So that was like a really key learning for me, was around understand the entirety of the piece's values and stuff before you spend hours in the weeds blending. Yeah, and the other one that jumps to mind, Xtab's spot on, fundamentals, just like the actual act and practice of painting. You know, I've had people say they think I've sped up my streams or my painting videos because my brush moves so quickly and I never make a mistake. I do make mistakes, I make lots of mistakes. But after a while, you just get good, telling your brush where to go. Alright, gonna get some... Perry's gonna get some lovin'. Perry's gonna get some lovin'. Add some black. What's some other tips I can think of for speed? Over contrast. It's very easy to glaze back down. See, I'm always like, put more contrast on than you think you need, because usually you haven't got enough. Usually. Tara's gonna get some love and I don't use speed paints at all. I only use contrast paints and occasionally ink intensity inks.
No.
What's happening, Ellie? But yeah, that is a common issue that you can have with speed paints, whatever they're called, contrast paints, anything like that. I can leave a residue. So you have to be careful with how you use them. You alright, Ellie? Red, crimson red, scarlet. Anytime I want to do a really, like a glaze, I try to go towards a Game Air because they're already thinner, formulated for being used through the airbrush, but their colour is very intense. It's like camping sex. It's fucking intense. Come on now, that's a classic. It's an absolute classic. Let's just paint this rock while we're waiting for some stuff to dry. Oh, Perry gonna get some love in, Perry gonna get some love in. I actually don't know. I bought this from one of the Australian miniature resellers, Spec Mod, Juddo, great personal friend of the show. And yeah, I don't know where he got this one from. I'm always just looking. Every time I go to QMHE, I buy a couple of historical models for the next year, so that I can paint them. And yeah. So this one jumped out. I liked the sculpt. Mossy's doing the mopping. So Ellie's in here, she's banned from being outside so she doesn't traipse wet paws everywhere. She of course could put her outside, but the dog likes hanging out with me. I'm the favourite. Oh, oh. Now, did we establish if there was a specific colour palette for these guys? Gaulish chieftain. Should I be going green and red? Because that's the colours that jumps into my mind when I think of Gauls. Is that right, or should I be barking up a different tree? Yeah, it's a good point. Just another thing, like I think we don't do this often enough, right? You always got to look at your figure at this sort of distance and not super close, because it's always deceptive when you're looking at this scale. You're like, oh, that looks rough. That looks rough, don't know. What is the period? I chucked out the box. Alright, I'm messing around with that too much. Let's come back to it. That's a good call, actually. I put him on a water, so maybe we'll do some blue greens. Good question, kid. The reason I lick my brush is because when I wash it out, the tip gets all spread. So I'm not actually licking any paint, I'm just shaping the bristles back into a point. That's why I lick it. Jimmy D, I've played 8 games of Legacy of You in the last couple of days, and I'm going to finish the campaign this morning probably. It is a stone cold banger, and it will feature on my Games of the Year list for certain. So you've done your brother a solid. No, very, very good game. I'm looking forward to lending a copy to one of my mates who's quite keen on the games as well. It's a fully resettable campaign, but no, it's wonderful. It's a really great game. Yeah, looking forward to doing my top 10 list this year. Gonna try and make it even more quality video. I'm trying to get into making videos like seriously, properly. Alright, so what I'm going to do on the cloak is... What am I going to do on the pants, actually? Alright, let's use a dark... Yeah, let's use this green colour that I really like called dark green grey. No, I'm going to use Japanese brown. I'm just going loose as today. Ellie, I know, sweetie. Your mum doesn't like you. I'm the only one who likes you. Let's try... Hey, Moss!
Earlier?
Yeah, she's desperate to see you.
I know, always.
I'll just say for the record on stream, this is an absolutely painter's dream of a figure. Whoever sculpted this is a digital sculpt. Whoever sculpted it, this is a wonderful, wonderful figure to paint. The volumes are crisp. Everything looks great. The folds on the fabric here are just absolutely wonderful. I don't know where this figure's from, but I should really find out because it is mwah. Absolutely delectable figure. Ten out of 10. Wood paint again. I too have moved into home ownership this year, and whilst I'm yet to paint a door frame, I've certainly done a lot more pool cleaning than I ever anticipated I would do in my life. So too, but until then I smile behind truth. It's not a must-have. I'm not actually a big pool swimmer myself, big pool goer. But I've never owned my own one that I've cleaned, so maybe that will change in summer. I'm not sure. It's a friendly reminder for any New South Welshmen who watching the stream. Queensland won the State of Origin. You're all welcome. Glorious. Absolutely glorious. Alright, we are going to finish up shortly, friends. I've got activities that I have to complete for the visitors, so get onto that. But it's been a good little hour and a half session on this guy. Feel like historical models are just nice. They're just nice to paint. You know? There's no weird servo skulls. Alright, Insantium. I will look out for your Discord message. So what I think is really going to sell these pants is we're going to do some airbrushing that should really smooth everything out. Although I don't want to smooth it out too much because I actually quite like the texturing. It is pretty cool that this is what we knocked out in an hour and a half, isn't it? It is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay. Alexa, airbrush on. Alright, so I mixed a little bit of pastel green into this tan colour, and I'm just going to use it to gently tweak my pants. Okay, and now we're going to add some. Yeah, it is a very bluish looking colour, pastel green. So keep in mind that green is of course a mixture of blue and yellow. And so a whiter pastel version probably going to look more like blue than it is like green because it's going to desaturate. Here's the difference between the two colours, pastel blue and pastel green, very similar. Alexa, airbrush off. Contrast paints. It's contrast paints. Contrast paints. Okay, so what I want out of these contrast paints that I'm going to use, I actually want to desaturate the contrast paints. So they're very vibrant colours normally, but I want to just make them less vibrant. So I'm going to mix snakebite leather and creed camo, and we should get a browny sort of colour, browny green. Yep, that looks good. And I think we're just gonna use contrast paints normally. Let's see. Just about, Moss. So I'm actually okay if this starts to pool a little bit, because what I want is some random squiggly bits. I want the pants to look dirty. All right. And that's where we're going to leave it for today, friends. We will come back. I do want to make the non-metallic metal a little bit more orange. So we'll use a glaze, probably an airbrush glaze on that. Need to fix his head, and then we've got the cloak and the shield to tweak around with, and we'll tweak those tomorrow night. Alright friends, have a wonderful weekend, rest of your weekend if it's an Aussie, but if it's a American, you've got all day Sunday to go and Saturday night. Have a great one. I will catch you all tomorrow night. Be done out.